Okay, I've been wanting to get this off my chest. Ang daming nagsasabi na hindi maganda ang exploration ng Enfield. Oh wait, I'm supposed to be speaking in English. Anyways, I have seen many people talk about how the exploration in Arknights Endfield is bad, but you misunderstood Enfield's exploration mechanics. It doesn't need flying, swimming, or even climbing. So now that I have your attention, let's begin. Arknights Endfield is a open world game with a more linear level design. There are zones in each region of the game. The world has been quite literally been made with that in mind, and I am here to explain why that's actually a good thing. But in order to prove my point, I will have to explain open world games. In a lot of open world games, there's an issue that I find very prevalent amongst them. It's the fact that a lot of the world feels empty. It's just there to make the world feel bigger than what it actually is. Points of interest are spread far and wide. In terms of the design, it's been built around fast traversal options like riding a mount/vehicle, gliding, flying, climbing, etc. The issue I find with these games is that despite the options to traverse a world and despite the size of the world, these games feel hollow. The world design just simply cannot be as detailed as a linear game because of the scale. It would be pretty difficult to make an open world game with the same design as an immersive sim, for example. Speaking of immersive sims, I will be using the Dishonored franchise as an example of this. The world design in Dishonored is linear but with branching paths. There are many options for you to go from point A to point B. The amount of things you can interact with in the game is actually insane. It's essentially a playground in terms of what you can do with the items scattered around the world, the tools the game gives you, and the way you can even play each level. It's a type of interactivity that open world games simply cannot replicate due to their scale. Now, Enfield is nowhere near this level of detail in the world design department, but the way the game opens up shortcuts to you and how you traverse through it makes me think that there was a deliberate decision to make exploration more restrictive, and that they actually made the world interesting and interactive because of that choice. If I have to compare Arknights Enfield's world design to a game, it would be more like the original Dark Souls. I know, overdone comparison. However, the world design of Dark Souls 1 is genuinely some of the best in the Souls series, to the point where even the later games struggle to replicate it. Bloodborne would be another one that I would put in this category. But to go over my point, the way points of interest are spread out and the way shortcuts and branching paths unlocked to you feel satisfying to go through. You explore the area, and then next thing you know, you find a path that gets you to where you want to be sooner. While it still has the design of your average open world gacha, so think chests, collectibles, and quest markers, Enfield makes those mechanics genuinely enjoyable. Except for the waypoints, but I'll get to that. The world of Valley 4 and Wuling feels like a puzzle piece that you have to solve, and having to figure out where you can and cannot go is part of the challenge and fun. Speaking of challenge though, there's another ace in Enfield's sleeves in terms of that. The ziplines you can set up makes it easier to go through the world. The fact that there is a restriction and the fact that you can put them in a lot of places makes it more thoughtful and deliberate. It is fun to figure out where paths diverge and connect, and it is so satisfying to find or even make new shortcuts. Even in edge-based salvage. I talked about it before in the video, but one of its biggest strengths is the level design. When it opens up to you, it begins to really show how much thought was put into its zones. I find myself exploring in Arknights Endfield not because of the rewards, but because it's actually fun to go through. There are flaws in Enfield's exploration, however, primarily the execution of the mechanic borrowed from Death Stranding, where player-generated structures around the world feeling more like clutter than actually being another piece of the puzzle. Another being that if you played 3D gacha games before, it feels kinda samey, despite it having a different philosophy in how they handle each area. It's not necessarily Enfield's fault that people are burnt out of the same 3D gacha loop, but it is something that I want to point out as I played Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves before, and I can see it being a thing. That would be a drawback. Another thing would be the waypoints. Yes, I'm getting into it. When you do quests in Enfield, it feels like Hypergriff doesn't trust you to go through the level yourself. Unless they are treating you like a dog. Chuchu aso, hindi mo kayang mapunta dito, di ba? Di ba, kailangan mo ng treat para lang makapunta dito? Oh, good boy. Oh, good boy. Like, it's so bad, I'm basically trying to go against the waypoint. It feels like an insult to my thinking abilities, and it reminds me that gacha games are treated like they're fast food slop, which I genuinely think they can be more than just that. So, no. I don't think Arknights Endfield should have the same mobility option as other open world games have. In fact, I want them to make the world smaller so they can put in more thought into the level design and its interactivity. I think the idea of adding more traversal options would have actually ruined the exploration of the game. This is because the level design just wasn't built for that. Why interact with the world if you can just skip the entire thing? Why would you bother with a world with paths that connects to each section of the world? Why will I care as a player about the puzzle pieces that the world wants me to solve? If Hypergriff in an alternative timeline did add flying, swimming, or climbing, it would have just been another 3D open world gacha game. The world design would have reflected that, and it would just be the same old boring formula that everyone is basically tired of at this point. Anyways though, I hope I have presented a convincing case in why Arknights Endfield exploration is actually enjoyable despite the flaws. Moving forwards, I only want Hypergriff to further improve on its strength. Make it linear, make each area a puzzle I need to solve, give us more building options to make traversal easier rather than giving us flying, for example. So like maybe like an evolution of like the zipline system, right? And give us more options to interact with the world.